What is going on, guys? This is Gainz Gaming. Today we are talking about Alexander Nevsky and whether or not you should still consider investing into him in 2024. This is one question I've been asked many times from people that, they're looking at some of the newest commanders that we're getting in game. Like we have Luce, we have Hook Bing, we have Hermann Prime. All these commanders that are coming into game that made people question the longevity of Alexander Nevsky, especially because when you are looking at running one cavalry march in the open field right now, obviously Nevsky with Joan Prime is usually the one that people recommend the most. However, one thing that I've been challenging with that is whether or not Joan Prime with Hook Bing is actually a better pairing than Nevsky Joan. And honestly, I feel like both are extremely beneficial. And honestly, you should be running more than one cavalry march in the open field if you can. But if you are only running one cavalry march in the open field, you definitely could consider only doing Hook Bing and Joan Prime. And then you would have to skip Nevsky, which, I mean, like I said, that's tough to do, skipping Nevsky, because he's still, in my opinion, one of the best commanders in the game. But today we are going to talk about what kind of players should consider skipping Nevsky and whether or not that's even a good idea. Now, obviously, we will be getting new cavalry commanders coming into game soon. And by soon, I mean within the next couple of months. Maybe by, late spring to early summer is when we would probably be getting the new commanders for cavalry. Because obviously, we are getting a couple of engineering and then one leadership commander coming in the game as well. They aren't officially in game yet, but they were released on the official Rise of Kingdoms pages. So we are having 3 new commanders come into game that will be, like I said, 2 engineering commanders that will be pairing with Margaret and Babur. And then we also have 1 more leadership commander coming in as well, which is most likely going to be a new garrison that I would assume is probably going to be paired pretty well with Gorgo because of the new engineering commanders having mostly smite damage, which makes me question whether or not we are going to have much more smite damage commanders coming into game. And with that being said, if we have new smite damage commanders come into the game with cavalry, I don't know if anyone else is thinking this, but if we get cavalry smite damage commanders, oh boy, Attila is back if that is the case, because oh my goodness, that would be one of the craziest things we could ever see is a cavalry smite damage commander paired with Attila. That would just be absolutely insane. Like, that would break the game essentially. And honestly, like in KVKs where you can kind of shift around what pairings you have or like what troop have different troop type buffs, you can pair Attila with Luce. Like, my goodness, that is insane in the open field. But back to Nevsky. If we are talking about skipping Nevsky, I would definitely need to see what the new cav commanders are going to look like when they are released, which obviously we won't know for a very long time. And by very long time, like I said, I mean a couple months, but that feels like a long time. And so the people that are questioning, should I still consider investing in Nevsky right now? I think you have to ask yourself a couple different questions. First of all, are you going to be fighting soon? And if the answer is yes, and you don't have a cav march yet, you definitely could still invest in the Nevsky, and I don't think you'd regret that investment. And if you are not fighting anytime soon, like within the next 3 months, like if you just finished KVK and your kingdom is planning on max skipping, so about a month and a half between KVKs essentially is what the time frame would look like, I would assume, if you do max skipping, obviously with finding a match as well. But by the time you have the next fight, it's probably going to be 2 months, which at that point, by the time you're in Kingsland, the new cabs will probably be here. So that's a very small amount of players going to be in that boat. But like for myself, I run 2 cav marches. So if I am running 2 cav marches, Nevsky, even if you consider adding the new cav commanders in there, then 100% Nevsky will be in that lineup. But if you don't have Nevsky yet, and you say you only run 1 cav march, and you currently have Hook Bing and Joan Prime, which is a great march. I think that's one of the best cav marches available right now. I think you're fine to stick with that for the time being until we get new cav commanders coming out and until we see how good those new cav commanders are. Because if they are better than Nevsky, which with every single commander we have coming into the game, every single new commander, they are getting better and better. The amount of power creep that we have coming in Rise of Kingdoms is just rambunctious, honestly. Like Luce, strongest commander in the game right now. Obviously, Hermann Prime, insanely strong as well with the amount of poison stacks that he does in the open field. There he is. I mean, like, you got to be using at least one of the two new commanders, and pretty much every single time they release new commanders, at least one of the two commanders that they release, whether it's the Mighty's Governor or whether it's the Wheel of Fortune commander, usually it's the Wheel of Fortune commander, which is nice. I mean, honestly, it would kind of suck if it was obviously only the Mighty's Governor commander that was really, really good, because like Hermann, you can get from the wheel, Luce, you get from the wheel, so everyone has the ability to unlock and use that commander. Versus, you know, like say Pakal, for example, is a Mighty's Governor commander. So you either need to put gold heads into him or you need Mighty's Governor. And, you know, just recently I took first place for Heraclius to, you know, use him for barb chaining because we didn't really have anyone that needed him. And so I was pushing for, you know, barb chaining. So I don't have to put any gold heads into him because I just unlocked him through Mighty's Governor. But with these commanders that are available from the Wheel of Fortune, obviously they are long-term investments as well. You can run Nevsky at 5511. You don't need to expertise him. Obviously, you would prefer to expertise him because the force skill in particular is insanely beneficial with 25% extra skill damage and another triggered skill damage as well, which is just insane. So you want to expertise him, but at the bare minimum, 5511 is going to be where you could consider using Nevsky in open field instead of using, you know, another Cav commander. But I mean, I think we're at a point where if we are considering not investing into Nevsky at this point in time, I mean, that kind of tells you how insanely power creep we are in Rise of Kingdoms right now, because these new commanders are just so powerful that you almost consider not investing into one of the best commanders in the game because you think the new commanders are going to be better than one of the best commanders in the game. So that is honestly kind of crazy and kind of sad at the same time that we're to that point where, you know, we just expect that the new commanders are going to be so insane that we're even considering making this video about not investing in a Nevsky, which, like I said, I think a very small, minute number of players are going to fit in that category. I think the large majority of players in Rise of Kingdoms should still invest in Nevsky, unless you are only running one Cav March, which, like I said, that's kind of the switch is if you are only running the one March, I mean, I think you can consider skipping Nevsky and just waiting for the new Cavs. But if you are running two, I think, I mean, obviously Nevsky Joan, Hookah Bing William, phenomenal. I don't think I'll even change that unless the new Cavs come out and they're like insanely powerful and I need to, you know, pair the new one with Nevsky and then run Hookah Bing and Joan and then kind of throw away William, which would kind of suck because I just invested into him recently for this prior KVK, which I've been really happy with William. He's been doing really solid. But, you know, with the amount of power creep we have in Rise of Kingdoms, you know, you do run the risk of commanders coming in the game that are better than Nevsky. And it's kind of crazy to say, like I said, but I think it is very possible that we will see that coming into the game eventually, that we'll have a commander that's cavalry that's better than Nevsky, that you might be like, okay, well, if I have to choose between Nevsky and this new commander, I'm going to go for the new commander because the new commander is better, which obviously new is going to usually beat the old. And Nevsky is, you know, he's coming on 2 years, which is kind of crazy. You know, June is going to be his 2-year anniversary when he was released into game, which, you know, it's kind of crazy that that amount of time has come by since Nevsky was released. But I still think he is one of the best commanders in the game. So if you are considering benching Nevsky, I think that's delusional to try to bench Nevsky unless you are only running one Cav March and unless you are, you know, planning on investing in a new cavalry right away. But I always like to wait and see how they look, you know, see testing and, you know, just see how they perform as well. I never like to invest into a commander that's like being like one of the first people to use them, because then you run the risk of, you know, having a dud, you know, like Chuck was one of those commanders. Sargon was one of those commanders where people are like, well, they're really good in duels, but then they just don't do good in the open field. And so, you know, you do run that risk with the new commanders, but I do think that the new Cavs are going to be insanely powerful. And I think that Nevsky could be put on more of the back burner. I think he already is leaning toward that, where, You know, I'd rather have Joan Prime than Nevsky right now because she can be paired with just about anybody and she's just insane. And then I would also rather have Luce than Nevsky. So, you know, he's already becoming, obsolete isn't even remotely the right word, but he is becoming less and less of a priority as new commanders come into game. So as we see more commanders coming in, I think we could see Nevsky shift even further down unless he is an amazing pair with the new commander, which could be completely true as well. So we'll have to see how he does when the new commanders come out, which, like I said, will probably be, you know, late spring or early summer. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. If you think Nevsky will ever be replaced or if he will be a great investment for basically forever, which, you know, I think either way could be true. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for checking out the video.